Welcome to the Behind the Bench podcast. It's your boy Jay Shad. I wanted to leave you with an oldie but goodie. My boy JB made this on our old podcast that was on Spotify in 2020. But I'm gonna share it with the YouTube followers to show you everything that's transpiring right now with ESPN. JB spoke about this back in 2020, just a year ago. A whole on the date in 2020. He made this video in June of 2020. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it for y'all. Sit back, listen. He's speaking number facts. Everything that's happening with ESPN and sports, he broke it down real smooth. So hopefully you enjoy. If you like our content, subscribe, share it, like, comment, and let us know what you think. I'm out. Sports media outlets nowadays bends the truth to bring in ratings. They would tear down stars to bring in more ratings. They would bring in athletes to give hot takes to even get more ratings. But that's not us. We're sports fans that knows the game, that remembers the game. We're going to give you an unbiased opinion without all the fluff. We're not brainwashed. This is Behind the Bench.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Bench. This is your co-host, JB. And I just want to take a couple moments of your time to talk about something that I feel is very important, something that's pertinent, something that should cause a great deal of concern that's been taking place in the sports world for a particularly long time now. I would say at least for the past 10 years, or if we want to get technical and just really break it down, I can say the origin of the overall tone of sports coverage. That's what this segment is about. It's about how I feel, as well as many sports fans who grew up watching sports television, sports media, listening to sports programming, whether it's a TV show or radio and the like, how we feel that just the overall sports media, the medium of sports journalism, the craft of covering sports has declined. And compared to what we were accustomed to watching on a day in and day out basis, watching, listening, and reading, the standard, I feel the bar has been lowered, and it has reached a very precarious situation. And in particular, when you think about, when the advent of cable television really became prominent in American culture, sports culture, modern day culture, one of the the standard bearer of sports coverage around the clock. This is what this network built their foundation on. And I'm talking about ESPN, better known as Entertainment and Sports Network, which debuted in the late 70s. I believe it debuted in 1979. And when you look at the evolution of it, when it first started, I mean, the guys who founded ESPN and the people who they hired to build the network, it was it was based on providing premium sports content in the highest level of sports journalism. And it was an awesome thing to watch because ESPN, the influence that is set for the sports medium, it permeated, and many people followed their lead throughout the years. And it was an awesome thing. It was a thing where, if you're having a tough day or a busy day at work or just a lot going on in your day-to-day life, it was amazing to know that you can turn on your favorite sports show and just really remove yourself from what was taking place in your day-to-day life. And what I would say, when you start talking about journalists and sports personalities who could command an audience and build an audience to listen to them show after show after show, that takes a great deal of talent, know-how, expertise, and whatever it was that you was discussing on your show. And everybody don't have the talent to be able to carry a show by, especially I would say a radio show, where you can really, you listen. It's like one-on-one. The host and the viewer turning in. It's a very interpersonal type relationship, right? So it's almost feel like that person is a part of your existence, part of your, almost like part of your like extended relationship. Beyond your who you're accustomed to communicating with, family and friends. And I'm not trying to, go off into a tangent. I'm just trying to build the basis of what I would like to discuss. Just take a couple moments here. And when you look at how things were then compared to what it is now, something has happened. Something has taken place over the course of time to where now we find ourselves questioning the authenticity of what we're seeing. In particular, the people who grew up witnessing that high standard. It was a high standard. And the beautiful thing about it was you knew the people who you were listening to, whether it was man or woman, whether it was black or white, or any other ethnicity. When you knew you was watching somebody, listening to somebody, you felt confident, and you had a sense of reassurance that the person that was being presented before you deserved their position, their platform, and eventually their stature. That's what, see, it wasn't just about the sport itself, it was about the coverage of the sport. Those two realms, those two elements propelled sports culture to grow the way it did and to expand to a global audience. It didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen by luck or on a whim. It took a lot of planning. It took a lot of dedication. So for people who really uphold sports journalism, we see the drop. We see the fallout. We see that the bar has been lowered. It's not about sports coverage today as much as it is about, unfortunately, this is the case. It's about agenda-driven, agenda-driven pursuit of getting people to believe in something that's really not genuine, that's really not authentic. And I believe, I was just talking to, matter of fact, I was talking to one of our co-hosts, Shad. Because it's four of us. It's Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, and myself, JB. So we talk about, the sports journalism industry a lot. We talk about it on a frequent basis. And one of the main attributes that is now missing, that has been disregarded, what also made sports great and stood on a higher plateau, is that the people who was covering sports during that time, as well as the audience who were tuning in, we appreciated the history of whatever sport that it was we were following and what they were talking about. So you got to respect the history of the game. You got to respect it. Because what's the saying? If you be true to the game will be true to you. So when you establish the history of the game, whether it's basketball, professional football, professional baseball, when you appreciate and uphold that history of the game, your outlook about what you're seeing is more balanced. And you can tell when something is being tilted towards the proper way, something is being tilted towards a damaging way. And I believe this is what we're seeing. Matter of fact, there's no doubt in my mind that's what we're seeing. And, when you look at a network like ESPN, who has been a part of the American fabric for close to 40 years, and now as the year 2020, they have trouble with many of their shows to draw 200,000 viewers. How does something like that happen when at one time, when you was at your apex, when you was at your peak, your viewership was in the millions, unequivocally? Now, people may say it's because, competition or social media, but the thing about it is, social media, they would follow suit if the standard was still where it needs and was accustomed to being in terms of sports coverage. See, when you're at the forefront of something, your influence, it can push society in a good way, and it can push society in a bad way. So when you have a platform like that, and it's not about predictions, it's not about always on point in terms of what your prognostication is or what your analysis is about a particular sport or a particular team or a particular player. It's just about as being as objective as you can and presenting the facts and the actual outcome of a sporting event, of a major contest, a major battle out there on the court, on the field, to where your input is not swaying people to believe in something that's not genuine. That's the mark of a great show, of a great host, of a great journalist. And for some reason, it's not there right now. So basically, when you peel back the layers and you travel back in time and you try to pinpoint the origin of where the direction of the sports media began to take a turn for the worse, when they started to interject and try to mingle sports with politics as a daily mantra. I'm not saying a situation where something happens in society and you have a conversation about it, for a brief moment, or even for a couple of episodes or whatever it is that your show that you host or that you lead. But when it becomes a daily mantra, the focus begins to sway from what it is that you're supposed to be discussing. And that's where the problems start. That's how agendas are able to circumvent and eventually take over an entire medium. Then it gets to the point where you go from politics, where you may discuss an issue, and then you try to project that front to a person that you want to propel to the top of their field, or to the top of their craft, without them necessarily earning their keep, and going out there and blood, sweat, and tear on that court or on that field, to where you don't need media backing or media push to state your case, because your productivity on that court and on that field is what the people are going to see anyway. It'll be absolute. You won't need all the angle. You won't need people speaking on your behalf every day. And that's for any athlete. Win or lose. That's the beauty about sports. You go out there, you compete, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. And in order to win, you got to be willing to lose. That's the beauty of sports. But because of agenda drive, maybe because the standard was set so high during previous decades and previous generations, that because of the constant need to try to find the next great athlete, for whatever reason, today's media as a whole will tend to disregard the contributions of the past. And so you can't do that, because when you try to distort the history of what was done in the past, your current era will be undermined during this time and after that era of activity has reached this conclusion, has reached this end. So what I'm saying is this. And you hate to harp and focus on one player that the media is trying to prop on a daily basis. But if you see it occur on a daily basis, it is what it is. It don't take no rocket scientist to determine what's going on. See, what I'm saying is, when you try to disregard the history of the game, whatever sport it is, basketball, baseball, or football, people gonna notice that, and people gonna be offended by that. They're gonna be turned off by it. And next thing you know, people not gonna stop tuning in, watching your programming. See what I'm saying? So when you have a young generation coming up thinking this is the way it's supposed to be, and then when you have a person from a previous generation, or even someone who grew up watching sports a decade ago, when they try to explain what's going on, they have a difficulty understanding why it is that we're saying what we're trying to say. So when you see a youth generation being misled, and I'm talking about not just being misled, but being had bad, you see what I'm saying? What's taking place now in today's sports culture, it's something like the motivation behind it extends beyond sports, and that's when you cross the boundary. You see what I'm saying? That's when you taking things too far. When you cut on the television, you cut on the radio, and within 5 minutes, you you can hear it or actually see a particular agenda being projected. Like at the beginning of every hour, only hour, 24 hours a day. You can set your watch to it. There's something wrong going on, and that's why I say, you know, I believe it's getting to a point where, when you got a signature standard bearing network like ESPN, and they have shows on their network that's having trouble drawing 200,000 viewers in a nation that has over 350 million people in it. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. So I believe it's getting to the point now where it's almost like the point of no return, and it's one of them situations where we have to go back to basics and start over from scratch, because there's too much oversaturation of agenda from this channel, this platform, this stage, and it's causing a malaise, and you can see the whole industry being brought down, and it's going to succumb under its own weight. It's almost like they forgot what they're on TV and on radio for. They're supposed to simply talk about sports. And when I say simply, I'm not saying sports is something that's like it is a very important part of our culture and our livelihood. It does provide a sense of purpose for a lot of young kids going out there, trying to establish a positive experience for themselves, venturing off into sports. Sports teaches a lot of good things. It teaches character. It teaches, what good competition is. It teaches how you should react to winning, and when when an opponent gets the best of you, you're supposed to, yeah, you'll be disappointed, but you're supposed to say, okay, you got me this time. I'm gonna come back next time. I'm gonna come back better. See what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is those little small steps is what made professional sports journalism, uh, analyst work, being a sports personality. It all starts from those small building blocks. Same thing goes for a professional athlete. They start from stage one. Then they keep building on it, And by the time they become young men and young women, they've shaped their craft to the point where they're good enough to play professionally and earn a living at it. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not trying to get off into a tangent, but what all I'm saying is this: there's too much chaos going on. There's too much chaos. You see what I'm saying? That's why you had a professional basketball player say the environment is toxic. It is toxic. When you turn on and listen to these shows and watch them, you can feel it. You can see it. See, when you got ex-athletes, being brought on a show with made like retired athletes or past athletes, what was great to see about them and their contribution to the field was that they gave inside take as to how to approach your craft and whatever sport it was that they participated in. And let's say, a big playoff game or a big game that can determine, the division stature, or pursuing the championship, Super Bowl, World Series, NBA championship. An ex-player can come in there and give you insight that nobody else can give. That's what make their contribution great. But when they cross the line and then they essentially, join in on the fray and further push the agenda and push the envelope. Then they start attacking people. That's taken away from what they're supposed to do. That's taken away from something that they can provide great insight on, to further boost the show that they're participating on, to further boost the craft. You see what I'm saying? When you dealing with all this madness, participating in all this chaos, it brings everything down. It takes the focus off of sports. Then you have to start picking sides as who do you feel is right and who do you feel is wrong. When that happens, division starts. You see what I'm saying? It could be like you can agree on 5 things, but they can bring up one thing that it could be a major issue 2 people disagree on, and then there it go. You know what I'm saying? It's no holds barred. You know what I'm saying? There's no filter. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no filter on these shows right now. And it's like they feeding off of it, and they feeding into it at the same time. That's not what it's supposed to be about. That's not what it's supposed to be about. Because a person who has I'm talking about a deeply entrenched experience in sports journalism, they not going to, or let's say a ex-athlete who competed at the highest level and know what it's about, they not going to participate in that madness. They not going to do it. Why would they do it? It makes no sense. You see what I'm saying? We got to get back to basics. The small, simple steps to rebuild this thing. Get all this chaos out the way. Or else the whole industry is going down this trajectory to where they may not be able to turn back from or recover from. And I hate to say that because I know it sounds drastic, and I know it's just sports, but like I said, people have built their careers on this. You know what I'm saying? And you see the standard, you see the bar has been lowered. You can see it. It's not even fun to tune in and watch these shows no more. And it's a whole bunch of people feel the same way. I hear it all the time. People ain't tuning in. You want to tune in and watch a sporting event take place, and they talking about this and that. They talk about everything but the sport. That's a major turnoff. Like I said, I can see if something happens in society where you talk about it, you share your feelings on it, and you try to balance it to where it don't overtake your content. You see what I'm saying? Because something may be said that shouldn't be said, and then you open up a whole nother can of worms. You see what I'm saying? And what I'm saying, there's a time and place for everything. So what I'm saying is they need to get back on track. They need to get back on track. And it's like they open up they open up this rabbit hole, and they can't dig themselves out from out of it. Because when you're a standard network and you got shows on your network, your viewership has declined to such a point where you've had to let top-notch talent go just to try to keep afloat. But they try to give the impression that that choice was made not out of necessity, but out of choice. You losing this person, that person, this person gone, for whatever reason, they go into your rival network. You see what I'm saying? And I mean, it's almost like for both sides, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's not on standard. It's not on standard, and I believe everybody kind of know it. You know what I'm saying? But it's another thing to actually, say it in such a way that you know that something needs to be done to turn things around for the better. There's too much agenda drive on these shows. Way too much. It's almost as if they're reading from a script. It's almost if they're not capable of talking about the sport in stark detail. And I'm not just talking about bringing up stats all the time. a player's stats, what this player's average and all that. I'm talking about the nuances of the game. That's what's missing. That's what's missing. And a lot of these guys, the guys who can explain the nuances of the game, those are the guys that tend to get their take on like a championship series, a championship game. They tend to be right most of the time because they understand the nuances of the game. They actually sit there and watch the game. They're not sitting there trying to, take down somebody's stats to try to build a case that somebody's the best of all time, but without putting things in proper context. And another thing that's brought these shows down, too, is that winning is not held at a high premium no more. It's about just getting there. But see, when you listen to tape and watch a film of the late Vince Lombardi, who coached the Green Bay Packers, he said second place only means that you the first loser. You're the greatest loser. Second wasn't part of his vocabulary. And as a result, he won 5 world championships in Green Bay, won 2 Super Bowls. That's why the Super Bowl trophy is named after him, because he won. Just like in the NBA, that's why that Finals MVP trophy is named after Bill Russell, because he won. It's one thing, like if you go into a match or something, or a championship, and you got 2 teams pretty evenly matched, they go down to the wire, one team pull it off at the end. Okay, we've seen that a dozen times, a million times. But when a person keep on getting celebrated for going 7, 8 times to the championship round, but they're not hosting the trophy. They're only hosting the trophy a third of the time when everything being given to them on a silver platter. And then you try to say that guy's better than the guy who won 6 championships with the least amount of offensive help. And people out here believing that? Oh man, we gotta change course quick, or the ship gonna sink. Because there's people out here who know the true history. No matter who their favorite player is, no matter who their favorite team is, you can't make one guy, and everybody know who I'm referring to, you cannot make one guy who's been in 9 NBA finals and lost 5 finals in 1 decade alone. That guy's lost more finals. He's lost the same amount of finals than the guy that they're trying to set aside won without losing the finals. So when you got these sports personalities coming on there every day trying to push that and try to say that guy who's lost 6 times is better than the guy who won 6 times and then lose, nah, man, that's not going to roll. It's not going to roll. It's not going to hold up. All it's doing is bringing chaos to these airwaves. It's bringing chaos. You get people, they call in, they believe in this stuff, man, and it's like throw all logic out the window, throw all caution to the wind. I don't care if he lost 6 finals. His stats say he's the best. No, it's about winning. It's about winning championship. It's about winning. If you want to be considered the greatest at your sport, you can't have a losing percentage in a championship round. It's impossible. It's impossible. So I would say the primary thing that needs to happen is that we have to redefine what sports is about. Basically, it's really getting back down to basics, to where everybody got to know their role. That's another problem. Today's media, a lot of these media personalities, they have a lot of influence. They have a lot of muscle. They have a lot of pull behind the scenes to dictate moves that certain teams make at the expense of their future. That's what we're seeing now. You see what I'm saying? So everybody feel like, they got this sense of power and they want to dictate the landscape. but it's not really fostering. It's not really promoting true and real competition. It's not doing that. It's not doing that. See, the fans who grew up and watched real competition, they know when real competition is going down when they see it. They don't need the media. Like, you know what it feel like. Words can't describe it. You see what I'm saying? But they got to get back to basics. They got to redefine what sports is about. Everybody got to play their role. Players play, coaches coach, managers run the team, owners own the team, fans support the team. The media covers the dynamic of a team, of a player, and of a sport. That's the way it should be. It won't be all this chaos. But it's too much agenda drive. It's too much dictating the landscape to fit a certain narrative, to try to push certain athletes to the top. And it don't roll like that. Because whoever the greatest was, whoever played in their sport, they didn't need that push. They didn't need that validation. They understood what it was about. And they won. They won when they weren't even supposed to win. That's the true mark of greatness. That's what these sports shows and these hosts need to gravitate back to. Uplift them athletes. They go out there and put it on the line and give you 150% for themselves, for their teammates, for the organization, for the fans. That's what it's about. But until then, it's going to be the same old song. People are going to be scratching their head, trying to figure out what's going on. And the answer is staring right at them. The answer is right there. But these networks, these shows, they got to get back to basics, man. And it'll be refreshing. It'll be refreshing to see. It'll be a weightlifting. They can gravitate back to what made them great, what made them prominent, what made them successful. See, when you're trying to push certain agendas, it bogs them down. It's a burden. It weighs them down. They start saying whack stuff. They start saying stuff that don't even make no sense. That's pretty much what it is, man. Like I said, where did it all go wrong? I would say when they start mixing politics in with sports as a means for success, rather than something that would be better to discuss on occasion when the situation calls for it, but without going into extremes. You know what I mean? Going back to basics and trying to push certain athletes to the top. Let these teams and these players compete out on the court. Whoever win, they get their shine. That's what it's about. Once everything gravitate back to, as they say, breaking bread, back to middle ground, everything, it'll be a better flow. But until then, it's going to be the same madness that's going on. It's going to be the same madness. So, like I said, I don't want to draw everything out. I may expound on this for a later episode on Behind the Bench. Again, this is your co-host, JB. Later.
And that's a wrap, people. Thank you for tuning in. Catch us on our next podcast. Until then, this is Behind the Bench.